Basin Electric's story began 60 years ago. It's a story of people helping people, of bringing electricity to rural areas, and of leadership, innovation, and commitment. At one time, electricity was a city luxury. Rural areas ran on sunlight by day and wind charger batteries by night. Then, in 1935, the new Rural Electrification Administration set in motion a series of events that energized rural America. For close to 20 years, rural electric cooperatives in the Missouri River Basin depended on federal dams for power. But by the late 1950s, the dams would no longer be able to meet the increasing demands of electricity. So, rural electric leaders decided to build their own regional power supply, Basin Electric Power Cooperative. And what started out a card table, a chair, a checkbook, and rented office space is now one of the largest generation and transmission cooperatives in the nation. In its 60-year history, Basin Electric has faced unique challenges, all while keeping one thing in mind: the consumer owner at the end of the line. Basin Electric's first general manager, Jim Grahl, talked about the challenges of forming a large power supply cooperative.
This is unique. This operation, this organization, is unique in the country. And when it was first undertaken and subsequent to the first loan being made, there literally were people around the region taking bets that it would never get off the ground.
But it did. In May of 1962, REA announced it would provide financing to build Basin Electric's first power plant, named the Leland Old Station. But without power contracts, a plant site, water supply, fuel supply, or transmission contract, loaned funds would not be released. The success of Basin Electric hinged on the ability to use an existing transmission system rather than building duplicate lines. And even that proved to be a daunting task. Finally, after months of negotiations, a historic pooling agreement between the Bureau and Basin Electric was signed November 29, 1962. It entitled Basin Electric to rent capacity on the existing Bureau transmission system to supply member cooperatives, the same cooperatives that were already being served by the Bureau from the dams, and it helped to release the required REA funds.
But the approach they took set the pattern for Basin Electric for years to come, and it's one which, as far as I know, Basin Electric has not forgotten. And that is that they created strength by numbers. And while individually they were small, when they came together in a big enough group, they had enough power and enough strength to get the job done.
It was the vision of Leland Olds, former chairman of the Federal Power Commission, that set the foundation for what Basin Electric became.
In June 1963, under the flags of 8 states to which the power from this new plant would flow, national and regional leaders broke ground for Basin Electric's Leland Olds Power Station near Stanton, North Dakota, named after the former chairman of the Federal Power Commission who devoted his life to protecting consumers' interests. Leland Olds urged the Great Plains rural electrics to join together to build giant plants from which their consumer owners would receive low-cost power.
In 1966, the Leland Old Station began generating electricity. It was the largest lignite-burning power plant in the entire Western Hemisphere. The member co-ops of Basin Electric were growing rapidly, and Basin Electric soon added a second unit to the Leland Old Station, twice as large as the first. Next, a peaking station in South Dakota, then a 3-unit partnership with the Missouri Basin Power Project, the Laramie River Station near Wheatland, Wyoming. And finally, the Antelope Valley Station near Beulah, North Dakota. The startup of Antelope Valley Station's second unit in the mid-1980s marked the end of Basin Electric's first construction cycle. In 20 years, the cooperative grew from 200 megawatts to more than 3,000, and from 2 employees to almost 1,000.
The main reason, in my opinion, that Basin Electric was so successful is that thousands of people, not only in the rural electric cooperatives, but thousands of people not in the rural electric cooperatives, worked together and helped because they believed that Basin Electric stood for something. that it stood for a lot more than just a kilowatt-hour factory.
When Jim Grahl retired, Bob McPhail took the reins. McPhail came to Basin Electric from the Western Area Power Administration, and when he took over as CEO, the demand for electricity had reached a plateau. Basin Electric had about 900 megawatts of surplus generation that wasn't needed, namely the Antelope Valley Station. A slow economy was blamed for the lower demand for electricity. Wholesale power rates were on the rise, and McPhail was under tremendous pressure to curtail expenses.
Basin's rates were climbing a lot. When I came to the Bureau in 1973, the Bureau rate was 5 mils a kilowatt hour. When I left the Bureau 5 years later, it was 5.5 mils per kilowatt hour. So I had a one half a mil rate increase in the 5 years I was there. And then I come to Basin Electric, and it was like 50 mils a kilowatt hour, and we had to do one more raise after I got there, and it went to 56 mils a kilowatt hour. And it should have been 60 because we were holding things out of the rate base to hold the rate down as much as we could.
McPhail concentrated on reducing costs, increasing operating efficiencies, and aggressively marketing surplus electricity. And by 1989, Basin Electric had reached a turnaround. Wholesale electric rates stabilized, and Basin Electric settled into an operations mode and focus on efficient business and power plant operations. Through the 1990s, Basin Electric's 3 baseload power plants were among the lowest cost electricity producers in the country and a source of pride for its employees and members. In the midst of this recovery, the cooperative made a controversial decision that ultimately protected the cooperative family. In 1988, Basin Electric bought the Great Plains Synfuels plant and the associated lignite reserves of the Freedom Mine. The Synfuels plant is the nation's only commercial-scale coal gasification plant, and it started operating in 1984, just in time for natural gas prices to drop. The original owners saw the plant as uneconomical, so they defaulted on their loan from the Department of Energy and walked away. Basin Electric was watching closely. If the Synfuels plant had closed, Basin Electric would have lost tens of millions of dollars every year in revenues, which would have been devastating to the cooperative, and more than 600 jobs would have been lost. So, following a special meeting of the membership, Basin Electric won the bid to purchase the plant. On October 31st, 1988, ownership of the Synfuels plant transferred from the DOE to Basin Electric's new subsidiary, Dakota Gasification Company. The coal mining assets were placed under another new subsidiary, Dakota Coal Company.
They plan to offer the gas plant to Basin Electric. They recognize that we have an outstanding group of people. We've done a tremendous job over the years in building and operating large facilities like power plants.
The Department of Energy accepted Basin Electric's bid given the long-term benefit to the country. The benefits included Basin Electric's commitment to not only share profits with DOE, but also to forego valuable tax benefits. The Synfuels plant and coal reserves proved to be good investments. The plant went on to serve as a firm source of natural gas for some of the cooperative's peaking power plants. Through McPhail's tenure as general manager, Basin Electric did not need to build power generation. Investments were made in fuel supply, power plant maintenance, and business efficiencies. By 2000, those investments had paid off. The average net cost of power would be just over 3 cents a kilowatt hour, and that meant rates dropped 37% since the all-time high 5.7 cents per kilowatt hour in 1987. In December 1999, McPhail announced his retirement, and the board selected Ron Harper as his successor, the first time a manager from a member system had been hired as CEO. He had been the general manager of Powder River Energy Corporation of Sundance, Wyoming. Harper took the lead in April 2000. The cooperative's new leader found fresh challenges as the new century unfolded. Member cooperatives had been growing at a steady, predictable rate of about 70 megawatts annually. And with that surge in growth, construction and planning again had become part of the business dialogue at the cooperative. As Basin Electric continued to develop power supply facilities for its members, a baseload coal plant was always part of that effort. The Dry Fork Station joined Basin Electric's generating family in 2011. It was the first coal-based power plant for Basin Electric in more than 25 years.
Well, what you see here today represents an investment on the behalf of the Basin Electric membership and the Wyoming Municipal Power Agency's membership of over $1.3 billion in order to produce electricity for the growing needs of this region. Again, we're extremely proud of that. Of that $336 million are for environmental technologies that are required to meet the very stringent regulations set forth by the Wyoming DEQ, the state of Wyoming, and EPA.
Harper continued to advocate a balanced approach to developing a national energy plan, along with renewable energy, nuclear, natural gas, biomass, hydrogen, and other fuels made from the nation's natural resources.
When you look at, energy from a global perspective, you cannot discount one over the other. It's going to take all forms of energy to make certain we have adequate energy for strong economic development, whether it's here in the United States or anywhere in the globe. It takes energy to develop an economy and sustain an economy.
This measured, diversified approach to meeting member needs saw the cooperative through the worst economic downturn the country had seen since the Great Depression. The next chapter of the cooperative's history begins with Harper's retirement at the end of 2011. Following Harper's retirement, Andrew Sari, former president and CEO of Ameren Energy Marketing in St. Louis, was general manager from 2011 until 2014. It was when Sari left that Paul Sukett, then chief financial officer, stepped up to continue moving the cooperative forward. Sukett, who had been with Basin Electric since 1983, was an experienced, capable executive who stepped into his new role without missing a beat. Sukett led Basin Electric through many exciting changes, from diversifying its portfolio by including solar power to serving reliable power and transmission to the booming Bakken oil region of western North Dakota. Because the cooperative needed to build more generation quickly to meet the demand of the booming oil field, financing those projects in the public market was the only way to move quickly enough. That's why in 2015, Basin Electric bought out of Rural Utility Service for about $1.5 billion, which was the largest private placement transaction of the year and the third largest private placement transaction to date at the time, only behind Mars Incorporated and the NFL. After years of study and evaluation with our membership, Basin Electric moved into the Southwest Power Pool market in 2015, an integration which allowed the cooperative to continue to reliably, economically, and securely serve its consumer owners. At the Great Plains Synfuels plant, product diversification continued with the launch of the urea plant in early 2018.
Always remember, never forget sight of why we are here. We're a cooperative. We're here for our member systems. We're here for the people who own us. Our mission in life is to deliver the best product at the least possible cost.
When Sukett announced he would step down in 2021, the board interviewed candidates from across the country. It was in Todd Tellez, who was previously Senior Vice President of the Power, Energy, and Utilities Division at CoBank, that they found the cooperative's next CEO. Tellez brings experience, a proven track record of success in finance and energy, and relationships with cooperative members to the table. When it comes down to it, our leaders, members, and employees are all working for one thing, that consumer owner at the end of the line. And what Basin Electric does affects them.
And together we formed Basin to provide us this bulk power source.
The stability of power costs, the expertise when it comes to managing large assets.
We are not, experts in marketing and managing portfolios for energy, so therefore it is nice to have someone that's watching out for us and doing that for us.
Us being the local and then having the GNT and then the board of directors is a huge value to us.
We all have a voice in how the co-op is operated, and that is very important.
The success of the past 60 years is founded in the cooperative membership's strength and unity, built on a common purpose, trust, and honesty, and built on sharing risk, so no co-op has to go it alone.
Working together, long-term partnerships, focusing on the future,
as a collective and not working against each other at all.
Basin Electric has had the privilege of serving rural Americans for 60 years. As complex as the Basin Electric system has become, it was built on a simple cooperative principle: people helping people to accomplish a common goal. The cooperative has been able to meet the needs of members and end-of-the-line consumer owners by prioritizing innovation and taking chances. No challenge is too great that it can't be solved by working together with our member systems and consumers to produce affordable, reliable electricity.